Trust me, here's the truth. Successful people, they have more problems than you do. They have zeros behind their problem. Rich people aren't without problems. But see, what's made someone rich or successful is that they've learned how to handle problems. Before we're done, I'm going to give you a three-part strategy on how to change the way you think about problems, empower you to step into new places of opportunities. Welcome back to Increase. I'm Blake Anderson, episode 54. We're going to dive right in. We're really following up to last week's episode. Check your assumptions. If you haven't listened to that, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Increase with Blake Anderson. Go back and listen. Last week we laid out a 4-step process you can find in the Bible how to make great decisions. All about learning how to check your assumptions. Keith Cunningham says that bad decisions are the product of unchecked assumptions. So go back and learn that 4-step fail-safe process to making great decisions. All leaders are going to have to make great decisions. And leaders are also going to have to learn how to deal with problems. When I meet with young leaders, they seem to have some flawed thinking. They seem to think that when you become successful, you don't have any problems anymore. And that if only they could just fix this one problem in their life, all would be well. And they'd be on easy street again. Well, I'm going to burst your bubble today if you think that way. Yeah, I get it. Problems oftentimes, we call them problems, they're unexpected, they're not fun, we wish they didn't show up, but they're inevitable. And so we've got to clean up some stinking thinking so we can see problems for what they are, and we don't let them stop us from reaching our destiny and achieving great things with our leadership, with our business, and the things that we're trying to accomplish. So let me identify some fallacies, and I'm going to replace this with some truths. I want you to be honest with yourself. You might think this way, but I'm going to give you some hard truths that if you will embrace, you'll be able to step to new levels of success. And before we're done, I'm going to give you a 3-part strategy on how to change the way you think about problems, empower you to step into new places of opportunity. So fallacy number 1 that I hear way too much is that when I make it, I won't have any problems. When I make it, if only I get there, I won't have any problems. Newsflash, here's the truth for you. There will be problems at every level. When this problem is over, there will be another one. Okay? There will always be problems. So you have to stop assuming that they will go away, and you have to embrace the reality that there always will be new problems. Second fallacy, coming on the heels of that, is that problems are the sign that something is wrong. Well, they can be. When things are wrong, there will definitely be problems, and lots of them. But let me tell you what. Here's the second truth. Problems are often the sign that you are doing things right. You see, growth creates new problems. Your next destination, promotion, business, it will have problems that you have never considered. And so if you are trying to get away from problems in life, then you're not going anywhere great. You're not heading up the mountain of success. Because every new place that you get to will have new problems, and there is nothing you can do about it. Oftentimes when your business starts to succeed, you reach a new level of success that creates problems that you didn't have at a lower level of success. So businesses tend to grow, and they grow in their volume, and they grow in their profitability. And normally what worked at a low volume won't work at a high volume. What you can do when you have 1 or 2 customers at a time, you can't do when you have 100. There will be things missing, and you won't know what they are until you're faced with that problem. So understand, as you do things right, the result will be problems. Take that as a sign that you are doing things right and that you are learning new things. Third fallacy. You hear this a lot. Rich people, successful people, they just don't have any problems. They have it easy. That is the most flawed thinking I've ever heard. And you hear it in many different ways, but it's oftentimes this belief that rich people don't know what it's like to be poor, and people who are successful, well, they just have it all easy. Trust me, here's the truth. Rich people, successful people, they have more problems than you do. And their problems they have dollar signs behind them. They have zeros behind their problem. Rich people aren't without problems. But see, what's made someone rich or successful is that they've learned how to handle problems. So here's what you need to take as encouragement. If you'll learn how to handle your problems, it will lead to your success. Rich people, successful people, they have problems going on that they ain't telling you about. They don't need to advertise. They've embraced a lifestyle that new levels come with new devils. Everything new creates a new problem, and we solve it. And that will lead to more growth, which will create more problems that we'll solve, which will lead to more growth, which will create more problems that we'll solve. It's a lifestyle. They've learned the art of solving problems, and they've learned a maturity that comes through solving those problems. So when problems pop up, the world is not falling apart. It doesn't mean that their business is going bankrupt. It doesn't mean that everything's over. It means they'll just learn something new. And they continue to grow through them. So, there's no easy button in life. And if you're waiting for someone to give you the easy button, you'll be waiting a really long time. And great places come with great problems. So if you're trying to avoid problems in life, you'll probably never get anywhere great. Now, I'm not in favor of creating problems just to create problems. And there are some people out there that seem to need chaos. I don't need chaos, and I'm not prescribing that to you. But what I am saying is you've got to embrace the reality that problems will come. And so I want to give you kind of a strategy and a way to look at problems that might change the trajectory of your life. Instead of complaining about problems, you know how to handle them. And when you handle them right, you'll see that a problem is just a door of opportunity. It's the doorway to more. Will take you to new places. So the first thing that you've got to change in your strategy is your mindset, right? And really what I'm saying is you need a whole new perspective, right? Think about where you're at right now. Compare it to where you were 5 years ago. If you're anything like me, your life looks a whole lot better now than it did 5 years ago. And if that's true, then the things you complain about today, you would have loved to have that problem 5 years ago. Okay? You've got to change your perspective. See the problem as a blessing. I'm blessed. Thank God I've got a problem with this real estate investment that I had. 5 years ago, I didn't have any real estate investments, right? Thank God I'm having problems with my growing team not functioning right. 5 years ago, I had half the number of people on my team. You see, change your mindset. First, you need perspective, and the second is you need maturity. You've got to become mature, and you've got to understand maturity happens when someone is settled in who they are. They have self-control, they have patience, they have self-discipline. And so a problem in one area does not ruin the other areas of their life. If I've got a dispute with someone at work, it doesn't infect or affect my marriage. If my wife and I aren't getting along about something, then it doesn't change the fact that I love my kids. Right? A problem with a client doesn't affect the way that I treat my other team members. You see, maturity is when you have self-control and self-discipline, and you have patience, and you can take a deep breath, and you can look with perspective at the problem. And when you can do that, and you're not blinded by your worry, by your frustration, by your concern, by your fear, then you oftentimes can see the solutions that you couldn't see otherwise. Maturity also knows that there's no defense for bad behavior. No matter how scared you are or mad you are, it's not okay to mistreat people in your life. And great leaders won't do that. So you got to change your mindset about problems. You got to have a perspective. Thank God for the problems you have, because they're evidence that you're becoming someone new. Decide that you're going to grow in your maturity because mature people know how to handle problems. Mature people don't lack problems. Mature people know how to handle their problems differently. Okay? Second thing is a great leader knows how to see a problem, and when they solve it, they turn it into an SOP, a standard operating procedure. Problem comes up in my business one time, I might handle it. If it never comes back again, no problem. Problem comes up multiple times, it needs a process. It needs a standard operating procedure so that we can do this thing over and over and over again without it being a problem every single time. I don't want to reinvent the wheel every time this problem comes up. I want a standard operating procedure that every time the next time this situation comes up, it's no longer a problem. It's just an event that has a process, a standard operating procedure. Now here's the thing. Standard operating procedures is how you'll take your business to the next level. It turns your problems into process. Okay? Turns this into a normal way of doing business, and it's no longer a problem. But you are going to have to be disciplined enough to take the time to create the process. That's where a lot of leaders and business owners, their businesses don't grow because they won't work on the business. They're too busy working in the business, solving the problems over and over again. If they don't call time out to work on the business, create the SOP, standard operating procedure, that tells our company, our team, that when this event happens, we do these things. Without an SOP, when this event happens, it's unexpected and it's a problem. Understand? So you got to have a correct mindset about problems. You got to be mature and you got to have perspective. You got to know that they are the result of going to new places. You got to be willing to put standard operating procedures in place to handle the recurring problems. So you turn these recurring problems into just a normal everyday process. And then the third thing is you've got to know how to lead through problems. We talk a lot about leadership around this podcast, and so I'm guessing if this is more than your first episode, you are here because you're a leader. And leaders know how to handle a team in a problem. Leaders know problems are going to happen. Unexpected things will always happen in teamwork, in business. Maybe the result of a mistake, maybe the result of something you didn't plan on. But you've got to learn how to lead through it. And here's what you got to understand. The leader's behavior sets the expectation for everyone else. Not what you've got in your principles, not what you have in your manual, but how you handle yourself. You are setting the standard of expectation for the rest of your team. So if when a problem pops up, you start complaining about it, you've told the rest of your team that when we have a problem, we complain. But when a problem comes up and you're mature and you're calm and you're collected and you find a solution and you lead right through it, you're sending the message out to the rest of the team that problems don't need to create chaos. We create a plan, we create a standard operating procedure, and we move right through it. Keep your cool. You as the leader are setting the expectation. You're setting the temperature for your team. Now, as a leader, when the problems come up, you're going to have to know how to encourage your people through tough times to lead them to better times. And so we have a 3-step process for that. It's in our organizational leadership framework. It's in one of our previous episodes. I'll put the link in the description. But the 3-step process for leading people, and this will work when you're leading them through a problem, is you've got to empathize, encourage, and equip. Let's break that down for a second. See, oftentimes people start complaining and you want to tell them, stop it, knock it off, not going to do it. And you just want to tell them the plan, here's what we're going to do. Well, here's the thing. If someone is complaining and they're being negatively affected by the circumstance, then they have a legitimate emotion here. And if you move past how they feel, they're going to be disenfranchised and they're going to disengage. And you can't afford to have them do that. Even if you don't like their behavior, you need those team members to engage with you in the solution to create the process that moves you forward through the problem. Okay? So you as a leader, even when you see people misbehaving, handling a problem well, you need to first empathize. Okay? Number one, you always empathize, whether you're having a meeting, whether you're on the phone, or you're just setting a culture. You always empathize. See, the people on your team need to know that you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They really don't care about your solution if they don't think that you care about them. Okay? So first you have to empathize. I'm not saying sympathize. I'm not saying you have to agree with their conclusions. But you can say, I know it's tough. I know this bothers you. I know you worked really hard. I know you didn't plan on this mistake. I know that you made a mistake here. I'm sorry you feel that way. The second thing is they encourage. And when you encourage someone, you need to affirm them. You affirm their contribution to the team. You recognize their value and what they bring to the table. You sow seeds of positivity and belief into them. You have a lot to offer here. Your gift is so important to us. I love your perspective. I really need you to join us in this. So you're empathizing. I see you. I'm sorry you feel that way. You're encouraging them. You bring a lot to the table, and then you can finally equip them. So as a leader, you're probably going to be the one that comes up with the solution. But you don't start with the solution. First you empathize, then you encourage, then you can equip them with that new procedure, with that new SOP. Hey, now we have a new way that we're going to do it, so this isn't a problem anymore, so that we don't have to continue to suffer under this circumstance. So that either we avoid this altogether, or the next time it pops up, we all know how we're going to handle it when it does, and it will just be a normal way of doing business. You can do it, leader. I promise you. Change the way you see problems to change your life. You'll start stepping through the doors of opportunity that maybe you're running from right now. You'll become the leader necessary for your next level. You'll be equipped with the skills, with the tools, with the wisdom needed to handle the problems at the next level that you're going to. So when the next problem comes up, don't complain. Look at it for what it is. Become the leader needed to solve it and go to somewhere new. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Increase. Wherever you are, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next week.